Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to unpack stories, information you can use to understand things just a little bit better. Today we're tackling, well, it's one of America's most persistent and baffling true crime mysteries. We're drawing on excerpts from The Vanishing of Maura Murray, America's most baffling disappearance. Our goal here is to really pull out the key insights from this case, help you understand why it's still so captivating, even 20 years later, and still completely unsolved. We'll look at the timeline, the really specific details that make it so weird, and the theories that have kept people talking online and off for, well, decades now. So, yeah, what did happen to Maura Murray?
It's fascinating, isn't it, how something that seems on the surface, like a specific event, a car crash, just blossoms into this huge, enduring enigma. We know where she vanished, essentially, but there's just this complete lack of solid clues, and that void, well, it's allowed for so much public speculation, maybe more than any other case like it. It really makes you ask, I think, how does someone, especially now, just disappear, like truly vanish without a single trace in this day and age?
Right, especially before everything was tracked digitally, which, as the source notes, is kind of a key point here. Her case might be one of the last major ones before that digital footprint became unavoidable.
Exactly. It highlights the sort of pre-digital blind spot. Vanishing like that today, much, much harder. It really is a benchmark for disappearing without a trace.
Okay, so let's get into the moments right before she disappeared. Maura Murray. She was 21, a nursing student at UMass Amherst. The book describes her as smart, athletic, but also quite private. Things started getting strange in the days leading up to February 9th, 2004. That Monday, she emails her professors, makes up a story, basically claims a death in the family so she can miss classes. Then she packs up her car, takes out cash from an ATM, about $280, I think.
$280, a notable amount.
And just heads north. Drives from Amherst, Massachusetts up towards the White Mountains in New Hampshire in winter.
And what's really striking there, looking at the source details, is how deliberate yet maybe impulsive it all seems. Packing the car, the fake email, the cash, it feels planned. But heading into the mountains in February, maybe not so much. Then around 7:30 p.m., maybe 7:27, her car crashes. Runs off Route 112 in Haverhill, New Hampshire, into a snowbank. A local bus driver sees it almost immediately, stops, talks to her. She's outside the car. But here's the crucial part. She tells him not to call the police. Please don't call the police.
Yeah, that part always stood out. Why refuse help, or at least why refuse official help right after a crash?
Exactly. That reluctance, combined with the crash itself, whether it was staged or just an accident, it sets a very, very strange scene for what happens next, or rather, what doesn't happen.
Okay, so the bus driver goes to call for help anyway. Drives to a nearby house, and cell service was spotty. Officers get there really quickly, just minutes later, and Maura's gone. Just gone.
Completely gone. And this is where the source really emphasizes the completeness of the vanishing.
Right. Her phone, never used again. Credit cards, same. Dead ends.
No digital trail whatsoever. Cut off instantly. Her backpack, other important stuff she presumably had with her, vanished too. No sign of a struggle, no dropped items, nothing.
And maybe the weirdest detail. The search dogs. They picked up her scent from the crash site, followed it east along the road for, what, about 100 yards?
Roughly 100 yards, yeah. And then the scent just stopped. Abruptly. Completely. As if she just lifted off the ground right there.
It's incredibly unsettling. Like she stepped into another dimension at that exact spot, left investigators with literally nothing to go on.
And that total lack of any trail, physical or digital, right after the crash, that's the core of the puzzle, isn't it? It defies how we think people exist, how they move through the world, especially in a crisis. It makes you wonder, how can someone vanish so thoroughly? The location, the timing, the weather, the immediate cutoff of everything, it makes this case stand out. A real failure of modern tracking, even back in 2004.
So, okay, with no clear answers, theories obviously started popping up, lots of them over 20 years. Let's tackle the first big one. The idea that Maura just ran away, intentionally disappeared. Based on the source, what points towards her choosing to leave her life behind?
Well, the book definitely highlights those actions before the crash. The email lying about a death in the family, that's a big one. Taking out all her cash, packing personal items in her car. You could absolutely see those as steps someone would take if they were planning to start over, to just leave. And telling the bus driver not to call the cops, that fits too, right? If you're trying to slip away unnoticed, avoiding official involvement makes sense. It suggests premeditation.
Okay, yeah, that all lines up. But then the crash itself, on a dark, snowy road, middle of nowhere, basically, in winter. How does a planned disappearance involve such a messy, dangerous, attention-grabbing start?
And that's the paradox, isn't it? The source points this out clearly. If the plan was to vanish quietly, why the crash? Why risk injury or getting caught right then and there? Why choose that time and place? In a snowstorm, it feels chaotic, not like a smooth escape. It really undermines the clean getaway idea, leaves a huge question mark.
Right. Okay, so if not a planned runaway, what about the opposite? Foul play. She meets someone dangerous on that road. What details support the idea she was a victim, even without obvious signs of a struggle?
The location itself is key here, as the book notes. Route 112 is isolated, especially at night, in bad weather. It's the kind of place where someone could be very vulnerable. A young woman, alone, car trouble. It's unfortunately an opportune scenario for someone with bad intentions. The timing is also critical. That small window between the bus driver leaving and the police arriving. Someone else could have stopped, offered help maybe, or forced her into a vehicle. It's definitely plausible she encountered someone else on that road.
Plausible, yeah. But again, the total lack of evidence. No witnesses seeing another car stop, no sounds reported, no disturbed snow beyond where the scent trail ended. Nothing. How does the source deal with that complete silence, that absence of any typical abduction clues?
Well, that's what makes the foul play theory so frustrating, and the source reflects this. Usually, something is found. A footprint, a tire track, a dropped belonging, anything. Here, there's just nothing. The book highlights this vacuum of evidence. It means any foul play scenario is pure speculation. You can imagine scenarios, but there's zero physical proof to back any specific one up. Investigators, internet sleuths, everyone's just left guessing.
Okay, another possibility people raise is suicide. Maybe Maura was deeply distressed, under pressure. What does the source material say about factors that might point even indirectly towards that?
The book does touch on the pressures she was facing. There were some academic issues, maybe relationship troubles, and she'd recently been involved in a hit-and-run incident herself just days before she disappeared. Not as the victim, she was driving. So you take those stressors, add the sudden decision to drive off. Some could interpret that pattern as someone reaching a breaking point, maybe considering a drastic final act. It offers a possible emotional context.
But like the other theories, it doesn't quite fit, does it? No note found. And packing her car, emailing professors about future absences, that seems more like planning, even if it's planning to disappear, rather than an immediate act of despair.
Exactly. The lack of a note is significant. And those planning steps, they do seem to point away from a sudden, impulsive suicide attempt right there on the roadside. While the book acknowledges the stressors and the possibility, it doesn't present suicide as the most likely answer, precisely because there's no clear intent shown, no final message, nothing definitive left behind. It remains just another possibility among many.
And finally, there's the idea she did disappear voluntarily, but managed to pull off starting a completely new life. Faking one's death isn't unheard of, but to do it so perfectly. In 2004, no digital slip-ups, no sightings, nothing for 20 years.
That really pushes the boundaries of what seems possible, doesn't it? The book kind of frames Maura's disappearance as happening at this unique moment in time. Just before social media exploded, before GPS was in every phone, before our digital lives became so pervasive. If she vanished, say, in 2009 instead of 2004, leaving absolutely no trace would be exponentially harder, maybe impossible. So the idea she successfully built a new life completely off-grid is, well, it's compelling to some because it explains the lack of contact. But it also highlights how incredibly difficult that would be. If that's what happened, her ability to stay hidden is almost as baffling as the disappearance itself.
So where does that leave us? We've gone through the facts, the main theories, and as the source material suggests, it really is just baffling. There's no neat conclusion here. It's a mystery that just seems to get darker, more complex the more time passes.
Yeah, and thinking bigger picture, the Maura Murray case really shows how some mysteries just capture the public imagination. They become these cultural touchstones. And this one was huge online. Arguably the first major true crime case to really blow up on the internet, right? With websites, forums, Reddit threads, endless speculation. It changed how people engage with unsolved cases. It forces us to confront how little we can sometimes know for sure. Even with family searching relentlessly, PIs involved, even police digging up basements years later, like that excavation in 2018, they found nothing. Still nothing.
Did she choose to vanish? Or was she taken? Victim or architect of her own story? It's a case that really highlights the limits of what we can know, even when every tiny detail gets picked apart. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What part of this story, beyond all the speculation, sticks with you the most? What did the Maura Murray case ultimately make you think about the power of the unknown?